Hello fight fans and welcome to Matt's Fight Corner. I'm your host Matt Ward, here to give you the best breakdown of the biggest MMA fight of the month. So, what we've got in the cards for this month, ladies and gents, fight fans around the world, UFC 159, the light heavyweight championship is up for grabs. In the main event, we have the champion, Jon Bones Jones, the Enigma, Jon Bones Jones. Now, he's a different Enigma from Nick Diaz if you saw episode 4. By Enigma, I mean this guy is one of the best fighters who's ever existed in the history of fighting. You can put him up there with Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson, George Foreman, Evander Holyfield, Bernard Hopkins. Any form of fighting, you have to put Jon Bones Jones up there as one of the best fighters ever. But the champion needs a challenger. Who's his challenger? The only challenger that could make this fight as exciting as an amazing it's going to be. Chael Sonnen, the former challenger to Anderson Silva's middleweight title. He is again one of the best fighters, one of the best contenders in UFC history, and also one of the best trash talkers. If you don't know who Chael Sonnen is, what fucking rock have you been hiding under, ladies and gents? How can you not know who Chael Sonnen is? Please, I'm being dead serious now. If you don't know who he is, go on YouTube and just see his stuff. Not only is he a good fighter, but the way that he talks, his interviews, the way that he promotes the fight, it's like you're watching wrestling. It's like you're watching WWE. The thing that makes it so amazing, though, is that nobody does it. No one in MMA talks like that, can talk like Chael Sonnen does. The fight with Anderson Silva, the first fight and the second fight, he made those fights. He built those fights to where everybody wanted to see it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You know what we're here for, to break down the strengths and weaknesses of champion and challenger, of Jones and Sonnen. So, I may start giving a little bit of backstory of this fight. So just a quick recap. UFC 151, which was supposed to happen last year between Jon Jones and Dan Henderson. That fight fell out because Dan Henderson got injured. He tore his knee and couldn't fight. So the UFC president Dana White was calling round all the top contenders, Shogun Rua, Lyoto Machida, to fight Jon Jones. None of them wanted to. Only one person did, which was Chael Sonnen. But Jon Jones didn't want to fight him. For some reason, Jones did not want to fight Sonnen, and the event got cancelled. So then this fight got built up. And now that they're both coaches on The Ultimate Fighter Season 17, which is one of the best seasons I've ever watched. I watch it weekly. It is amazing. I love the chemistry between the coaches, between the fighters. It's a brilliant season. And Jones and Sonnen make it. So that's the backstory of the fight. Now, strengths. Always we start in the red corner with the champion, Jon Jones. Oh my God. Right. First of all, this guy, the thing that makes Jon Jones such a great fighter is his wrestling. He is one of the most dominant and best wrestlers in not just the UFC, but in MMA. If you see his fight with Stephan Bonnar, the way that he controls Bonnar on the ground, but not just controlling him on the ground, he suplexes. If you don't know what suplex is, it's where you literally pick a person up off his feet and slam him down to the floor. He suplexes Bonnar. That requires a lot of wrestling strength. And one of the reasons why, again, he's so dominant is because his wrestling is the highest level. It is at the highest level which you can't even imagine. But as we all know, it's MMA. This is MMA, ladies and gents. It's not just wrestling. His striking. Though now a lot of people have said that Jones does not have punching power, you cannot argue the fact that he is one of the most creative strikers that has ever been in the fight business. He's up there with Anderson Silva on what he throws. I mean, he throws spinning back elbows, where literally he will spin around and boom. What he did in the fight against Stephan Bonnar, Bonnar threw a kick, he caught it and spinning back over, caught him on the temple, did not finish Bonnar, but you just see his striking is just so inventive. Kicks to the knees which stop you right there in your path. If you want to see an example of his dominance with his striking and his wrestling, watch his fight against Shogun Rua when he won the title. Now, another big aspect of Jon Jones' strengths as being one of the best in the world is his jiu-jitsu. He has finished a lot of top guys, and I'll give you a list of people that he's finished. Pardon me if I forget a few people. Ryan Bader, Quinton Rampage Jackson, Lyoto Machida, Vitor Belfort, excluding Ryan Bader, those three names, former champions, one of UFC, not just UFC, MMA Hall of Famers, all-time greats. Rampage Jackson never been finished in the UFC, and Jones choked him out. Vitor Belfort got finished by Silva, yes, but he got tapped out by Jones. And Machida, another enigma of the sport, still got tapped out by Jones. His jiu-jitsu is up there with the level of his striking. Moving over to the strengths of Chael P. Sonnen. Now, the biggest thing about Chael is, again, it's his wrestling. That is one thing which every good fighter in MMA, whether it's UFC or Bellator or World Series of Fighting or even the Women's League in Invicta, any brand of MMA, any of the top fighters have top-notch wrestling. And Chael Sonnen is one of those fighters where his wrestling is, again, I would actually put his wrestling up there with Jon Jones. I would put his wrestling up there. It's that good. He has the ability to control people on the ground. If you see his fight against Anderson Silva, the first fight at UFC 117, he dominated Anderson Silva, kept him on the ground and punched and punched and punched. If the fight got back up to their feet, took him down again, controlled, punch, punch, punch. Didn't finish him, but that's a story for another day. For those of you fight fans who don't know about this fight, I'll go over it in another review, or I may just post something in the comments box. Another thing about Chael Sonnen's strengths is his strength. The fact that you could actually lift someone onto your shoulder, walk a couple of paces and then slam to the floor, and actually have the strength to hold people down. You've got to think, ladies and gents, in the middleweight division where Sonnen made his name, people weigh 185 pounds, and there's some pretty big dudes in the middleweight division. You've got to have strength, not only when he managed to lift Brian Stann onto his shoulder, but you've got to have strength to hold him down. And that's what Sonnen does. That's his game. Take you down, keep you there, and rough you up. Now, moving over to the weaknesses side of both fighters. Now, this is where it gets a bit tricky, because again, I hate it when one side is easy and the other side is hard, and this happens quite regularly. So I'll just keep on going with Jon Jones. In my opinion, his biggest weakness is the fact that he's not been tested yet. Now, hear me out when I say he's not been tested. What I mean by that is, Jon Jones is a great fighter. He's a great fighter, but he's only 24, 25 even. I think, yeah, this year he's turning 25. He's either turned 25 or he's going to turn 25. One of the two. He's still a young fighter. But he's defended the light heavyweight title 4 times and demolished a shitload of people. Now, in my opinion, he has not fully been tested yet, because everyone that he's fought, whereas when he fought Shogun, that wasn't Shogun Rua. That was a shell of Shogun. Shogun was coming back from an injury and got fucked up by Jones. Rampage, oh, best shape of my career, and I'm going to put a whooping on Jon Jones. No, you didn't, Rampage. I love you, Rampage Jackson, but Jones owned you and fucked you up. Because why? Rampage didn't show up for the fight. Machida was the only one. Actually, hold on, I'll keep Machida to last. Rashad Evans, Jon Jones' former training partner, one of the only people who you would think had a chance of beating Jones, and there was nothing. Rashad could not do anything to stop Jones. Jones couldn't finish Rashad. He won by unanimous decision, but Rashad didn't have an answer for Jones. Now, Machida is the only fighter who came ready and actually had Jones in trouble, wherein he connected with the left punch, rocked Jones in the first round, and that's where you think, oh God, now we see if Jones has the balls of being a champion, to come back from adversity. And he did, because he managed to rock Machida and then choke him out with a guillotine choke. the Vitor Belfort fight, his most recent fight. Again, in the first round, Vitor pulled guard, was down on his back, and very nearly managed to get an armbar on Jones. You thought by watching the fight that Jones's arm was broken, but again, Jones came back from adversity, controlled the rest of the fight, and into the fourth round, submitted Vitor with his dominant wrestling and his brilliant jiu-jitsu game, submitting him with a key lock. It's a version of a Kimura, if I'm not mistaken. Now, this is where I say he's not been tested, because most of the fighters that he's been put up against, except for two, that is Vitor and Machida, they haven't, his opponent hasn't shown up. Whereas you look at their abilities on paper, like what I do, you look at their abilities on paper and you think, yeah, on paper he can do this, he can do that, but at the fight it doesn't happen. Jones shows up, the other fighter doesn't. So that's where I think if Chael shows up, this could be a really bad, not bad fight, a very hard fight for Jones, a very, very hard fight for Jones. Speaking of Chael, moving over to Chael's weakness, anyone knows in MMA that his biggest weakness is his jiu-jitsu defense, to be more precise. He's been submitted, I think, about 8 or 7 times, most of them by triangle choke. The biggest example I can give you is, again, the Anderson Silva fight at UFC 117. For 4 rounds, for 5.5 rounds, Chael Sonnen took Anderson Silva down, beat him up, kept him there, and just roughed him up for 5.5 rounds. He was well ahead on the scorecards. Anderson didn't even win a round. But then, with 1 minute and something seconds left in the 5th round, Anderson Silva, controlling Chael Sonnen's wrist, threw his legs up in the air and caught Chael in a triangle choke. Now Chael tried to sit up, kick his leg back and get out of the choke, but then Anderson, being the champion he is, then transitioned it to a triangle armbar, and Sonnen tapped out. Now, early in his career, what would happen was Sonnen would be dominant for the first round, and then halfway through the second round, for some reason, his brain would just shut off, and then he would end up in some sort of position on the ground. He would be with a seasoned grappler like Damian Maia, and then get tapped out. Now, he hasn't been tapped out since his fight with Anderson Silva. He didn't get tapped out in the second fight, which happened last summer. So maybe his jiu-jitsu defense has risen since then. Again, none of us know, because it's not been shown. His jiu-jitsu offense, though, you saw was improved in his UFC 136 bout against Brian Stann, where he choked him out in the second round via arm triangle choke. So you've got Jones's jiu-jitsu game against kind of Chael's not non-jiu-jitsu game, his weak kind of jiu-jitsu game. So this is where I'm going to put up with some variables, guys and girls, some variables. Chael Sonnen is a fighter that shows up. You saw it in the Anderson Silva fight. He showed up and backed up every word. Now, if Chael shows up, which I think he will, it's going to be a hard fight for Jones. That's my opinion. So now, moving over to the final part of Matt's Fight Corner is my fight winner prediction, and I'm going to go with the champion Jon Jones. I think that he's more of a well-rounded fighter than Chael is. He has more ways to win. He could beat him up on the feet. He could tap him out on the ground. I'm gonna call the finish on this, guys and girls. I'm gonna say Jon Jones by submission. I'm not gonna pick a round, because I know I'm gonna get that wrong. But I have a feeling it's gonna be another win in the submission column for Jon Jones. Thanks a lot, guys and girls. It's been fun doing this episode of Matt's Fight Corner, and I'll see you next month for episode 6. Take care, everybody.